Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 18 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss progress being made in cloud computing programs within the Department of Defense and Homeland Security agencies. With me on today's show are Ryan MacArthur, Joint Warfighter Cloud Capability Program Manager at DISA. Justin Finelli, Chief Technology Officer, Department of Navy. Commander Jonathan White, Cloud and Data Branch Chief, U.S. Coast Guard. Jason Payne, Chief Technology Officer, Microsoft Federal, and Bob West, Chief Security Officer, Prisma Cloud Palo Alto Networks. We're talking about cloud computing. Gosh, 13 years ago, we had the 25-point plan that sort of launched us on this journey. And boy, we are on a journey. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. You all have been on a fantastic journey over the last 2 years, and it's super impressive to see where you are now. Give us a state of where is the DoD in regards to cloud computing capability?
So 2 years ago, so the first year was really going through the evaluation phase for the contract, but JWCC is about to close on its first full year of contract award. We've already seen.
And if I could, what's JWCC for those that?
It's the Joint Warfighting Cloud Capability.
Fantastic.
Like I said, we're about to close on our first full year of the contract actually being awarded. We've seen an incredible demand across the department, especially the combatant commands for the state partners. So the first 4 to 5 months for the program office after the contract award was really dedicated to getting the program office established, up and running, fully operational, to really fully support our mission owners, getting task orders awarded, getting to a continuous iteration on really to what could get the program office fully functional, and then how we could get the contract really in place, because we awarded the contract in a fast manner. Normal contracts like JWCC take anywhere from 36 months to 48 months, and we awarded JWCC in 17 months. So that was a pretty rapid acquisition. In the last year, what we've done is we've awarded 35 task orders on JWCC. The total life cycle value so far awarded on JWCC is just over $260 million. The average award for our task orders, it's been taking about 24 business days to award a task order on JWCC. That's pretty fast. I've had task orders that have been in the $30 million range. I've had one recently that got awarded. I think it took 27 days to award a $30 million task order, and I've seen some award as fast as 4 days. We have another 38 acquisition packages that are currently in the pipeline right now that are working through the process. Those take they take various times, because it's really sometimes it's them working through the process, learning what they want to do, how they want to do it. But that timeline kind of starts once they've a DITCO or their contracting office actually accepts the package that they've been working on. We're working with 50 other mission partners to see what their interest is in adopting JWCC.
Let me ask.
Yeah.
I think 4 cloud providers, right, on this contract?
Yeah. So Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Oracle.
Very powerful capability and so important, right? You want to have all that capability out there, but if you don't have a good structure on how to execute and order the goods and services, that can be a real shortcoming. It sounds like you all have mastered that. So we're looking forward to some specific examples. Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Justin, how about at the Department of Navy? Undoubtedly, you all probably use the JWCC, but I think you're doing some other things over there as well, right?
Yes. So very much making use of Ryan's great work. We're connecting with him regularly. We're tracking that, and we're leaning in. We've also worked with the ECMA folks at Army, and then talked to the Air Force on a regular basis. So our partnerships are better than they've ever been. We're in the cloud. We have been for a long time. There are a lot of pockets of excellence, and most recently, we stood up the Neptune Cloud Management Office to bring together those pockets of excellence and to make sure that as we've gotten in there and there are cloud native spots, there is a lot of lift and shift. How do we really tie that together, and how do we make sure that we're telling a good, effective, unified story? So as we've been leveling up recently, we've been doing some back end scaffolding in terms of similarly, hey, do we have the right contracts in place? Do we have the right partnerships in place? As we've gotten stronger with our hyperscaler relationships for the companies that Ryan mentioned, we've also looked at gaps and seams and used traditionals, non-traditionals, and small businesses to try and fill in those gaps. And so that's anything from multi-cloud activities that are kind of picking up. We've talked about those for a while. You mentioned cloud for 13 years. We've talked about multi-cloud for almost as long, but I haven't seen many places where we've done it, and now we're actually doing it. Modern Edge is picking up, and we've done some pilots there that are going to help us be more hybrid. I was on the phone yesterday with 2 different PEOs, and they were talking about, hey, how can we work together as PEOs to have a hybrid instance or instances that will help our warfighters both afloat and ashore. So that stuff is going really fast now, and I think it's very much an instance of slow is smooth and smooth is fast. We're getting to the really good part in terms of outcomes, and that's a matter of efficiency, cost, and then most of all, quality of service.
Yeah, I think you picked up on an interesting concept. Single entity, pretty straightforward, multi-entity, a little more complicated. When you start trying to swizzle work back and forth between those multi-clouds, boy, that gets tricky. And I know that a lot of you are working very hard to enable those capabilities. Commander, the Coast Guard has the beauty of being on the civilian side, if you will, and being on the military side, lots of different choices. Tell us, what is the state of the state at the Coast Guard?
Absolutely. Well, you hit the nail on the head right away, right? So we're straddling the line between DHS and DoD. Our networks are decidedly on the DoDIN, so we comply with all DoD security policies, and we can afford ourselves contracting options on both sides of the aisle, which is very exciting. And so what we've done in the last year, we started our journey in October. I kicked off what we called the Enterprise Cloud Acceleration Team, and we built a matrix team around delivering cloud capabilities as fast as humanly possible. So we are modeling our journey after the Navy. We modeled our journey after the Army. We took the best pieces of everything, and I established a vision. I defined 3 words for our cloud journey, and it was speed, resilience, and value. And the idea was to align everybody towards this future state of operating, where we are operating at a velocity in the cloud environment. And so over this year, we've achieved ATOs in both Azure and AWS cloud environments.
Nice.
We have built out our software factory, and we are building out our data fabric. So those are our 3 pillars of capability that we're going to be delivering this fiscal year.
Laying down that framework for to layer some stuff on that and really execute. Super impressive, and congratulations to everyone over there at the Coast Guard that's making that happen. Jason, Microsoft on a tear in regards to unlocking a plethora of capability for these folks to do their missions. Give us a top line on what is the state of the state at Microsoft right now.
Yeah, it's a great place to start, and I think where we focus really to begin with is a sense of partnership with government, right? I think wherever the mission needs are, whatever the challenges are, Microsoft is here for the folks on this panel and government broadly. We really focus on productivity and beyond that from a technology point of view, the things that are needed for mission every day and what will frankly be needed tomorrow. Technologies that we find in the cloud, 5G, AI, and even quantum computing. And behind that is, all the people that we have at Microsoft supporting it. From a technology perspective, I think I'd highlight 2 that I think are, incredibly relevant to the audience and the panel today. I think really first would be cybersecurity. We certainly see across the DoD incredible focus on zero trust. See that as well in sort of the homeland security and folks that where Jonathan is at. But we're actively engineering all of our products to align with the guidance that we see from DoD Zero Trust Strategy, its reference architectures, and all those control implementations. I'm proud to say we've got really great and complete coverage there, and we're focusing on security outcomes like modern security operations, log management, protection and governance of data, particularly sensitive data, which is very important, and securing multi-cloud environments, which we touched on. And all of that is incredibly necessary to protect, against the ever-growing onslaught of cyber attacks that we see. The second area that I would really focus on would really be artificial intelligence. I think we saw in the last couple of weeks, there was an incredible amount of focus on that from the administration with the release of the Artificial Intelligence Executive Order. There's a lot of energy there, and frankly, I think it's going to be a transformation game changer. Out of the areas in AI, there's a bunch of them. There's two I think I'd highlight there as well. Really, first would be productivity, right? I'm really talking about kind of the co-pilot types of products that we're releasing. We recently made announcements on the availability roadmap of those for government, but they hold incredible promise, right, for the potential of increasing the capabilities of individuals, teams, organizations, and those missions. But I think more importantly, those same technologies that underpin our co-pilot products, we're also bringing those to government to allow mission owners to bring those AI capabilities internal to their mission workflows, and even including in the most sensitive missions in the classified cloud. So we'll be able to work through, mountains of data, find meaningful insights, work with the latest technologies in generative AI, as well as traditional and conventional AI, combining that with this great commercial technology for the government to build its own co-pilots, augmenting existing missions and workflows and systems wherever they are.
Super impressive. And what I really like and hear on this panel is the accessibility of this technology is so much more readily available with all the hard work that's been done to lay the tracks down and make that available to the various entities that need to use that to implement these different types of capabilities. Bob, we're going to go to you next and talk about Palo Alto and just give us sort of a state of where we are. You all are right smack in the middle of enabling these capabilities, both at DoD and at DHS. Give us the top line there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would tell you a couple things. First of all, we just did a study on the state of affairs in cloud, and we, one of the things that we see are you have to get it right, and that's certainly something that when you think of programs like JWCC, those are the types of things that we support. And a couple of the things that we found in our study is that there's a lot of organizations that have an ineffective vulnerability management. So when you talk about operating in a multi-cloud environment, as does a good portion of DoD, when you talk about operating in AWS and Google Cloud, Azure, one of the biggest challenges is understanding, so what's the unusual activity in the multi-cloud environment? And that's one of the biggest challenges, because legacy tools simply don't allow you to do that. And so with our tool set, we're architected to operate, number one, in a multi-cloud environment and be able to stitch everything together so that you can, in fact, look at things. The other thing that we see is that there's a number of organizations that lift and shift their applications. And in some cases, it makes sense given time constraints, et cetera. But one of the challenges in terms of taking that approach is that there's a good number of applications that have embedded credentials, for example. And so you have to understand, number one, what's your security health, and then secondly, really understand where the secrets are. We also see that when you think of traditional development environments, embedding security is important, but when you start talking about DevOps and CI/CD pipelines, it becomes that much more important because you have much more aggressive shifts in development. So paying attention to security and making sure that it's tightly integrated into the DevOps environment becomes really important. So you think of, I like to use quality as an analogy. For example, when a car rolls off the assembly line, you don't say, let's add quality now, right? It's a function of the manufacturing process. And if you don't have the right level of quality, you start having defects. And if they're severe enough, you have recalls. So similar thing in development, it's close to impossible to retrofit security into applications. You have to build it in from the design phase, build quality in, if you will, and do testing throughout the development life cycle.
No question about that. And great pickup, by the way, on that instrumentation, or perhaps the lack of instrumentation in making the journey to a multi-cloud environment a smooth one. Justin, I'm going to start with you. We always like to take a program and sort of highlight it, blow it out, something that we can inform the listening audience of. Give us an example of that, if you will, from the Department of Navy.
Well, a drum that we just really can't stop beating is Operation Flank Speed. It was something that we all had to move after CVR. We all had to move during the pandemic. And so this is an instance where we stood up our M365 across the Navy. It had tentacles, a number of different places. That includes our virtual desktop that I'm using right now, that we shared the image with the Army, and they have spread that to innumerable users, that we've shared components with the Marine Corps. But I'll pick up on a point that Jason made. Working with DoD CISO on our M365 instance to include teams, but so much more than that, we were able to run through that zero trust objective list of 91 activities. That was so helpful. That was a back and forth across organizations where we said, okay, how do we get this done? What is the next? And so we've gotten through that list with red teams, with NSA. And so the zero trust progress that has been made as a community, and specifically what we're seeing on the other side of that, our performance is better. We're more secure. It's a higher value, more streamlined, seamless process for our users. You just mentioned accessibility. We want computers that just work. My computer works 3 times better than it did before the pandemic, and we can prove that now. And so we've done enterprise monitoring efforts to validate this and all of the other work we're doing. But I think we couldn't be happier about that effort, and it'll continue to grow. It's a conveyor belt. So the best part of being in the evergreen is it keeps getting better. It's not automatic. There's integration and work every time, but the features don't stop. And that's not just one cloud anymore. There's a number of them, but that's a big part of our existing journey and our future one as well.
Amen. On just having the ability for a sailor to sit down and just be able to do their job and not have to wrestle with the technology and make it work. Ryan, my head is still spinning from the various capabilities that you've outlined there. It's just super impressive what you all have done. The pented up demand seems incredible. Can you give us an example of one program you'd like to highlight in that basket of capabilities that you described there?
Oh man, I'll be honest. It's really hard to just point to a single program in JWCC because we're an agnostic contract vehicle. So I'm not going to point to a single one. So what I will point to is the vast amount of organizations that we're helping out. So recently we onboarded Transcom. So a major COCOM into JWCC. We're in the middle of moving NIWC PACS classified workloads into JWCC right now. They have active operational missions that are in the classified space that are being moved over. We have CDAO missions that are getting moved over. They've actually awarded contracts, I think 4 of them in JWCC. Special Operations Command is already playing in our realm as well. And of course, we have DISA that have awarded multiple contracts in the cyber operations space. We also have CIO's new initiative, Joe, which is going to really kind of push out. I would say that would be one of the larger ones that's going to be new for the department. So Joint Operational Edge is going to be a new one. So really what that is more of an initiative to push out the operational edge for the department. So JWCC is, I would say, is you get the CSPs are all very CONUS based from a classified perspective. The intent for Joe is to push out the classified capabilities from the CONUS regions to OCONUS. So we've already pushed out a piloting effort out to the Indo-Pacific. We already have a second one that we're going to be pushing out to further into Japan, and then we have third and fourth one that we're going to be looking to put out into the Europe and Bahrain areas as well. So that would be another larger initiative that we're pushing out as well in the JWCC realm. So several large efforts in JWCC, but I wouldn't pick any one program. Every one of them are special to us when they come to us, but they're just as all important because they all enable the department from a different perspective.
And looking at the aggregate there, right? I mean, all this direct access, underlining direct, to these CSPs and all these various programs coming at you, and you're just like, bring it on, and just dropping this capability is just super impressive to see what you all have been able to do. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about cloud computing in the Department of Defense and Homeland Security. Jason, I'm going to throw it over to you. Can you highlight a program that you'd like to share with the listening audience regarding the journey that Microsoft is on to unlocking this capability for our community?
For sure. I think I'll take a little bit of Ryan's approach here as opposed to a specific program. I'll talk maybe more broadly about an initiative. And I think what I would really highlight there is the exploration and adoption of a lot of the advanced AI capabilities that we've seen come to market within the last year, particularly around generative AI. There has just been an incredible amount of excitement and interest about the possibility of this technology as it specifically relates to, mission outcomes and frankly, mission needs, right? Whether it's in information dominance or decision advantage. And so we've been on a journey with the department broadly, working across all elements to sort of lay down the understanding of what the technology is, how fundamentally it works, how it can be applied to those existing data sets and data silos and data lakes and data orchestration. And what expectations you can see from it, frankly, sharing a lot of our lessons as we are advancing that technology in the commercial space and broadly across the government. I'd be remiss if I didn't also include, conversations around responsible application of the technology and understanding, how best it can be utilized in the context of both unclassified needs as well as classified needs for mission. So the AI adoption for us is one that we're spending an incredible amount of time on, for the, frankly, interest that we see in market and the capability that it brings to the warfighters and everybody beyond in the Homeland Security missions.
A very serious capability that is so important to the warfighters and to the community at large. So we really do appreciate that. Commander, I'm going to roll up to you and ask you to highlight a specific program. You gave us a great top line on what's happening at the Coast Guard. How about a specific program you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, I'm actually going to flip that question a little bit because we're just starting our journey and I have 3 favorite programs. So what we're really using the cloud for is a leverage to mature our organization. And we took this opportunity to do a 20-week sprinting evolution called Mobilize to bring our teams together, focus on key work streams, such as building out a cloud center of excellence, looking at the platform, doing migrations, looking at our portfolio and our business processes, and then focusing on FinOps as a service. And we took all those together. We had teams sprinting every 2 weeks, delivering value towards maturing our organization to be cloud enabled. And I took my focus here was to use the cloud as our pivot point and say, this is what we were doing in the past. We are not doing that in the future in the cloud. And so my favorite program of the cloud is actually using the cloud as almost like a vault in our journey towards modernization. And we're baking that business process all the way from our headquarters department down to the technical implementer deploying capability in the cloud environment. And that was delivered. We concluded that this month, and it's delivered exceptional results. Everybody is speaking cloud now, top to bottom.
Bravo. And we're really proud of everything that's going on over there at the Coast Guard. Keep up the great work and keep fighting the good fight. Bob, we're going to circle back to you and ask you you top-lined a lot of different activities there, very important nuances on several of these items. Can you give us a specific program that you'd like to highlight that you all are working on to help unlock some of these capabilities for these operators?
Yeah, so we've been working with JWCC. And obviously there are national defense implications in terms of getting it right. There's a couple of things that we're starting out. First of all, we have one of the tools that we have is posture management. So how big is my cloud estate, right? Making sure that number one, you understand what you have. Secondly, what's the security posture? Are there any security issues? And then secondly, have the ability to address them. That's typically the starting point for most organizations, is really understanding what do you have. And then we're talking about the integration of security into the CI/CD pipeline as well.
Very important element there, and we really do appreciate that, unlocking that capability that Ryan has described, and the velocity there is really incredible. We're going to talk about priorities. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. I know there's a lot of different activities going on over there. Really want you to try to highlight, if you could, describe the priorities, maybe top two this year that you're trying to focus on.
I don't know about top two. Always top one is to drive growth for the program, for the department, to continue to increase the size. It's a $9 billion contract. First year we've only hit $260 million on the contract, so got to drive growth. But really, first major priority for us is to ensure that we have the cloud service providers all on the same playing field from a capabilities perspective. So I've still got to get Google and Oracle all online on the classified side. So Google, we're expected to have them up and running on classified for IL6 and TS. I think we're expecting fourth quarter for classified IL6, so secret, and then TS should be early spring. And then Oracle's already got their TS, so got that this fall. And then I think we're expecting to have their secret up and running here in the spring of this upcoming year. So that's the first goal for the year. Second would be tactical edge. So we've been doing tactical edge testing of all the CSPs, tactical edge. So we have phase 1 and phase 2 testing with all the CSPs. And then we're also going to be doing the Joe operational edge testing as well. So expanding that initiative out, getting that up and running across the board. So getting that completed, and what that also entails is ensuring all those capabilities are fully functional for the department. My team is they take a lot of pride in the fact that we break every one of the CSP's toys. We're batting 1,000 across the board on breaking their stuff. My team is actually out in Colorado right now at the Google facility testing their tactical edge stuff right now today. But that's the last CSPs that we're going to be testing for their small form factor. And then we have 2 CSPs we have to test their mobile data center. So Oracle and Google's large data centers. We have to test those. I think we have to finish that one. One of Oracle's will be done at the end of the year, and then Google will finish in the spring. And then the last thing I would say is going to be a big priority is our partnership. That's kind of been in the news a little bit. We work really hard with the IC to get our partnership with on the TS side. That was something that's never happened, to have an intermingling between Title 10 and Title 50. That was a first and foremost. We got an MOA done between ourselves and the IC community. We are also working through how we're going to handle secret between ourselves and the IC. So we have a joint program group that manages that relationship between ourselves and the intelligence community. So the goal for that is to really manage how we're going to manage authorizations on the secret fabric between ourselves and the cloud service providers and the intelligence community. So we're working through that agreement as well. So that's another major priority for us to clean up the management of that space.
I appreciate the top line on all these various priorities. It sounds like you've got tremendous amount of activity going on there, all great things that, again, are going to enable and unlock these capabilities. We really appreciate that. Jason, Microsoft, top priorities. What's a demand signal coming in right now for Microsoft Federal for this year?
Yeah, demand signal for this year is pretty consistent with the things that the other folks on the panel have discussed, as well as some of the earlier items that I mentioned. I think first off is really cyber, right? I think a lot of the cloud demand and product demand that we see broadly across DoD and Homeland Security is securing the baseline, right? Making sure that we're able to defend all of our networks, our applications, and our workloads. Following on from that, we certainly see demand for the themes of multi-cloud here, right? The complexity of multi-cloud is real, and being able to help lean in those governance activities around multiple cloud estates, as well as where our data is and those data operations, both from a governance point of view and a silo point of view, trying to break those down. And a lot of that is really driving towards the outcomes that a lot of the partners here on the panel and in the audience are getting to, which is, effectively advanced analytics and artificial intelligence, right? The promise of that and the capability of that moving forward. And so those are really the top three priorities that we see broadly across the department and in Homeland Security.
We appreciate you all being laser focused on that. Justin, you top lined a lot of things. You gave us some specific examples of a program. Top priorities for you at the Navy this year regarding cloud computing?
So cloud computing is important. We've covered that. It's just an enabler, right? Mm-hmm. The thing that drives us every day, what centers us, is the warfighter and securely moving data from anywhere to anywhere. Cloud turns out is one of the best, if not the best ways to do that. And so we're leaning in there, but every day we start off our morning meeting, our early scrums with, hey, what are we doing for the warfighter today? And where can we make their lives better? And so from that kind of starting point, that's the why, the what and how we move the data, how we're measuring that this year. Number one, span. And so Ryan talked about classification levels. We want to go up, down, everywhere in between. That includes our allies. That includes the IC. That includes making sure that we can connect. And the best part of the cloud for me is that when it works at its very best, it's seamless, it's friction-free, you don't know it's there. And so from a span perspective, we're moving to the tactical edge. This is the last mile. This is the last tactical mile. We do DDIL, we have disconnected and intermittent activities way better than we used to. And we want to make sure that span is there for number two, which is operational resilience. Can we fight hurt? Are we ready for the chaos monkey? How backed up are we from transport all the way up? And what does that look like? And then three is optimization. So this is the nerdy one, but ultimately the easier this is, the more that we can get our story streamlined and the more value we can show. And once we tell that value story, we can rinse and repeat. We want to make sure that we're not just improving the situation, but we're making this an enduring factor that actually saves lives, saves time, and saves from an efficiencies perspective, duplicating efforts. And laying that down flat means that we can be opportunists. We are here to buy not technology, but to buy wins. And so if someone brings something forward that hits one of those two or something else that moves the needle for us, we want to hear about that. And Ryan has done that. Probably everyone on this phone call has done that.
Really do appreciate that and the laser focus on the mission there. Bob, how about at Palo Alto Networks? I know there's a lot of different activities going on over there. You top line several of them. What are the priorities for Palo Alto Networks this year?
Yeah, so within our cloud division, there's a couple things. We've been using artificial intelligence in our products for quite some time. So refining the use of artificial intelligence. One of the challenges that a lot of organizations have is the use of open source modules and modules of code in general. And so we acquired a company called Cybersecurity about a year ago, and it just went live in our platform. So giving organizations the ability to understand what's the security health of the software supply chain, that is one of our big priorities. And then to Justin's point, understanding what data exists and how do you protect it properly, because as Justin was saying, and everyone else is saying, lives are at stake, right, in joint warfighter programs, as an example. So making sure that we have the ability to protect information at a very granular level. Those are the three things that we're focused on right now.
We really do appreciate that and the laser focus on these various activities. Commander, top priorities for the Coast Guard this year.
Yes, I'll go with two. So the first one is selling our cloud capabilities to our federated IT partners. So the Coast Guard has federated IT capabilities throughout the service, so people can deliver their own IT. It's not all under the CIO's office generally. But we want to extend our offerings as an enterprise service. They can inherit our security controls. We can onboard them very efficiently, get them set up with an account, and get them running as fast as possible. So selling the cloud, pushing it out, very important priority for us. The second one is to get to version 1 and plan a version 2 for our software factory and our data fabric. Those are the modernization engine that we're going to leverage in order to take care of our 100 legacy applications that are currently hosted in our data center. And we want to be able to achieve a level of velocity and scale in DevSecOps that the Coast Guard has never seen. It's a huge goal for me. I've been a DevOps advocate for many years. Sort of brought the agile mentality to the service center many years ago. So I'm finally being able to realize that vision, and it's a number 2 for me after selling it.
Fantastic. Laying those tracks down, really important, so that when you sell it, they can you can deliver on the promise, so to speak, right? All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about cloud computing at DoD and Department of Homeland Security. We're going to get into lessons learned. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. Top lesson learned as you've been on your journey so far.
Yeah, sir. So we've had tons of lessons learned this year. First and foremost, what we've learned is every acquisition is unique. We've worked with tons of organizations. Every mission, every acquisition, they have different requirements that you could have same mission, same acquisition, but all the requirements could be different from each other. What we've learned is having a team that works dynamically with each other is what's important, that they're iterating with each other. As we did with JWCC, when we did our evaluation team, we had a team that worked internally and externally with each other. We had acquisition experts, contracting experts, legal, engineering, cybersecurity, groups from the IC and commercial partners all working with each other to get through that acquisition process. So the lesson learned that I had is having a dynamic team, all working towards a singular goal to get towards a process. That's what allowed us to get JWCC up and off the ground in 17 months versus the normal 36 versus 48 months, because that acquisition process is not built for speed. But for us to get it done that fast was how we did. That's how we did it.
Bravo, and we certainly do appreciate it. I know all your entire community that's using it does as well. Justin, top lesson learned at the Navy.
The same lesson as Ryan. We're way better than we thought we can be when we're focused and all in. This is not your granddaddy's government. So Margaret Mead was right. When we have super clusters of unleashed folks, they are not just beating baseline, it's in some cases 3 to 5 times faster. So really, the lesson learned is how quickly can we get outcomes-minded people connected to each other? If there are uniforms in there, it's contagious. So that's been jet fuel for us. And by paying attention earlier to some of the things that are going well, we're able to promote to production faster than we've ever been before.
Amen. Commander, top lesson learned at the Coast Guard.
Yeah, it's not just good enough to build a secure cloud landing zone. You need to provide enterprise services, which includes IP space, DNS, backup restore, domain controller services, and you need to provide that business operations blanket, which brings customers through the door, gets them set up, situated. And my goal is to have a customer come in. If they provide the right information, they're situated with a cloud account within a couple weeks, and they're starting to build out their dev environment. Being able to do that, you have to deliver a serious amount of service to that customer, right? It has to be all ready, right? There's little tentacles of service. They just take things off the shelf and start using it. Nobody brings their own services to the table. They leverage what's there. And so that lesson learned for me is to focus on that early. Don't put enterprise services to the end. They're integral to the secure operating environment of your cloud.
Amen on the providing all the accoutrements that they need to deliver the full capability right up front. Jason, top lesson learned that you've discovered at Microsoft Federal.
Yeah, for sure. I think I might go a little bit deeper in the list based on the answers from Ryan, Justin, and Commander White there. But I think I would definitely go with measure what you treasure, right? So if we focus on the fact that we need, synergistic teams working together and we need all the governance, the next great lesson would be to measure your progress, define what your goalposts are, define what those key performance indicators are to see that you're moving in the right direction at the right velocity that you expect. And, frankly, it's okay to fail fast and pivot and take those lessons learned and move on to the next experiment.
Really do appreciate that. Bob, top lesson learned, Palo Alto Networks.
Yeah, two things. Understanding number one, what is your goal when everything is implemented? What do things look like? And appreciating the fact that that's probably going to change. So designing the architecture so that even as you get to the goal that you think you're going to have, knowing that it's a really fluid environment. So things will change over time, and then building security into the DevOps pipeline. As Jonathan was saying, this is something that's critical that makes the organizations within DoD much more efficient and agile. And building security into that process is really critical.
You have to have all the pieces and parts together to make this thing real. And we certainly do appreciate everyone thinking about that and discovering that. Well, we're going to break here, and we're going to talk about the future. We're going to fast forward 2 to 3 years. Bob, I'm actually going to start with you at Palo Alto Networks. I know you all have some things in the Petri dish. There's a demand signal out there that you're working on, no question about that. What does it look like 2 to 3 years from now? What's the customer expectations from where Palo Alto sits? What's the positioning that Palo Alto is in at that point?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're working on right now is tighter integration of our products on our cloud security platforms. So we continue to see that evolving. AI continues to evolve, and you have to make the assumption that the adversaries are using AI as well. So the evolution of AI is going to be continuously important. And then the other aspect is that ultimately most organizations are going to have a hybrid environment, right? There's going to be a good set of assets that are going to operate in the cloud, but there'll still be some legacy applications that exist for a given period of time. So having the right instrumentation to understand holistically, here's my overall technology environment, making sure that things are integrated properly across all of our solutions, so that when unusual things happen, you really understand them, and fundamentally that information is protected properly.
Really do appreciate you all positioning yourselves properly to anticipate that capability. Jason, Microsoft Federal, what's it going to look like 2 to 3 years from now in regards to what the customer expectation is versus what Microsoft Federal will be delivering?
Yeah, I think I'll borrow one of the patterns from earlier and just pick 3 words here, right? Faster, better, stronger. I think we look at the cloud and the capabilities that customers are deriving from it currently. And, a lot of it fundamentally starts from the fact that it's all software based, right? It provides us an incredible amount of agility to bring capability to the warfighter. And that frankly, velocity has only increased with time. If I think about just the advancements that we've seen in security in the past couple of years, the advancements we've seen in artificial intelligence just in the past year, the velocity is just increasing. And so when we look at the needs for the department and Homeland across the globe, right, the mission is everywhere. And I would expect over the next 2 or 3 years, we see increased capabilities to kind of smooth out what we get from a hyperscale cloud all the way to the most forward edge capabilities, and being able to deploy the latest, greatest tech wherever the mission is through fantastic connectivity that's, through both traditional fiber as well as sort of orbital and space communications, and being able to deliver these capabilities exactly where they're needed, and when they are needed. So I look at really an increased velocity of capability over the next couple of years.
Fantastic, and we certainly look forward to that. Commander, if I'm a graduate, fresh out of the factory, you've assigned me to a ship, and I'm out there, and you handed me a laptop. What can I expect? What's that operating environment look like 2 to 3 years from now?
So we have this long-term vision. I actually just talked to a cohort of Coast Guard Academy cadets yesterday.
All right,
we have this long-term vision,
AKA
where we want
the factory, right?
Absolutely, yes. We cut and print ensigns; they come out, but they're all extremely eager to take hold of our technical future. These are cyber cadets, right? These are majoring in our new cyber major that we have at the academy. And my vision 2 to 3 years is that, well, for one, I'm handing this capability to those cadets, and they're going to be as junior officers running this show, and that's a huge sales pitch for me, right? Get ready, because you're about to take on some serious capability. And then the second one is our longer term vision. You're out to sea. Coast Guard's a disaggregated force. We typically send one cutter out on its own, and maybe it pairs up every once in a while. But we need to bring capability to bear in the middle of the ocean. And my vision is to have common platforms that are driven by cloud capabilities, like our software factory and modern Kubernetes type hosting environments. And we move away from this idea of delivering a system, because we have 10s, 20 systems on these cutters that generally don't talk to each other. And I really want to deliver a platform where we plug in sensors that provide data feeds. Those are crunched in that platform and then offered up as an experience to those operators through the application lens that we deliver through our software factory. And all of that really starts in our cloud environment. We get it right in the cloud, we can push that down into our tactical edge. And I'm hoping in 2 to 3 years, we're really realizing that vision, especially with our new cutters coming online, the offshore patrol cutter, and modernizing our national security cutters and making them making them something we've tried to realize that in the past. Now's the chance to really realize that.
Really be all that they can be out there in that autonomous type of environment. We really do appreciate that. Justin, same question, right? What's that sailor going to experience 2 to 3 years and that from now, that junior officer coming out of the academy? What's it look like? What type of capabilities can they expect to see that they don't have today?
Yeah, it looks like information superiority, and it shouldn't be close. Modern service delivery has allowed us to one up ourselves, and we want that to be next service up, next offering up. So this is about innovation adoption. I can tell you what we'd expect in 1 year, but we don't even know how good the offerings might be in 2 to 3 years. What we have set up is a framework to make outcome-based decisions so that when there is a killer app from a Gen AI perspective or ML that saves time and puts that sailor or that Marine's eyes on their mission, and they can focus on human tasks and be supported, that's going to jump to the front of the line. So in general, right now, our world has gotten bigger across the acquisition and operations community, but it feels smaller in this way. We can get things done with 1 or 2 calls instead of 7 to 10. And so by focusing on a few outcome-driven metrics, we can erase technical debt in the next 2 to 3 years. We can, it's the autumn, we can let some leaves fall and find places where one application or one service can replace 2 or 3 that are no longer serving us as well. And we can compound on that to make sure that the highest impact services, we implemented CNAP this year. That went from a pilot to full production as a part of our production cloud in just a few months. So it's compounding time for us. And we want to make sure that we are opening the door for value to be realized as it's been promised.
Sounds fantastic, and we certainly look forward to it. Ryan, we're going to fast forward 2 to 3 years and talk about what's it going to look like in that operating environment. Right now, you're going at Mach 2. Tomorrow, you're going to be going at Mach 3. A lot of capability out there. Just, trying to envision what it is that you'll be offering 2 to 3 years from now, and then also how you'll be offering it, but also what's your anticipation of what the services are going to be asking for 2 to 3 years from now.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'll go at a higher level. So JWCC is going to grow exponentially because our goal is to consistently drive everything. Every time a service comes available from on the commercial side, is to drive parity across the board. That's our initiative. That's one of our requirements in the contract. The CSPs have to have commercial parity from the unclassified all the way up to the classified space. But I think where what's important for the department for the future is cloud is going to be a transition. But I think where the department goes over the next several years is the understanding of what the transition for cloud actually is. I think there's a true movement of what actually cloud is going to be. Cloud isn't just commercial. It's the department's going to move towards cloud. We're going to start to shrink our governmental footprint of traditional hosting and move towards, I think you'll have a 70% or 65%, 80%, somewhere in there of commercial cloud usage. And then we're going to have a private cloud instantiation of government cloud. So like on the DISA side, we have Stratus. You have some of the services have private cloud instantiations that they're hosting as well. But I think you're going to have a shift of that. So you're going to have some private instantiations on the government side, and you're going to have the commercial side, which JWCC or Cloud One or the Neptune offices or ECMA will be driving. And then that is where you start to drive the drive for hybrid cloud. That's where the department starts to really get after where we need to go, which is multi-cloud, hybrid cloud instantiations. Then I think the real future for the department gets bright, and how we get after the real power of what we need to get from the commercial space. I think that there's always going to be a need for that. And then I think we also start to look at where the department, the DoD CIO, is looking at how we upskill our workforce to learn how the cloud is, how it functions. Our workforce has inherently been trying to learn how that space is going to grow. You see the Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office, you see what DIS is trying to do, you see what all the services are trying to do. So I think that that's also where the growth is going to be. And then I also think where we're going with like Joe, initiatives like Joe, where you see where Flank Speed is trying to go, the services are trying to grow exponentially on how we can expand in the cloud space. So I think the next 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years, the department is really going to just expand, not just in the commercial space, but in the overarching cloud. I think that that's where you're going to see the cloud movement for the department is really just going to expand exponentially.
Is there a future where you even need a C2E, or does that sort of get overtaken by events?
Well, C2E is the IC side. So
Sure.
yeah, of course there is. Yeah. So yeah, JWCC is the department's version. But C2E is our partnership with the IC, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
C2E is the driving force for the IC, and JWCC is the driving force for the department. They are 100% our partner. We actually feed off one another.
And I really do appreciate that that partnership between the two. It's often asked, so I thought I'd throw that out there.
Oh yeah. No.
How about self-provisioning? Is there a point where a lot of these goods and services from the contract side can be sort of a self-provision type configuration? Is that a dream you have?
Yeah, so actually on JWCC, we have automated provisioning for user accounts already built into the contract. So if you let a task order on JWCC, we have root accounts built into once you let a task order, you get automatically provisioned on JWCC. Our timelines for auto provisioning is within 2 hours. I think it's within 2 hours on unclassified and 72 hours on any classified network. So we've built that into the contract.
Super impressive, and we really appreciate that. Well, listen, I want to thank today's guests for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us for this program. I'd also like to thank our sponsors for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.